Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world. Welcome to Web3 Warriors, episode 37, featuring Ottis, joining us from Brazil. How you doing, Ottis?
Hey, everything fine. Nice to be here. Excited for it.
All right, I'm happy to have you, man. It's awesome. So, welcome to Web3 Warriors, everybody. I'm David Karoma, your host, to go by Chrome in the metaverse. And today I'm really excited to have Ottis here. It's one of the first people I actually met in the metaverse and one of the first places I visited in the Crypto Voxels metaverse, which you can see on the screen right now if you're tuning in on the live stream. It's called Purple Valley, and one of the cool things that Ottis has done, among many cool things, is created a filter that's called the Purple Valley filter, and it turns all of the green in the environment into purple, which has really cool visual effects. And as you can see here, he's also built a really cool space in the Crypto Voxels metaverse. So today, for the episode, we're looking at focusing on essentially XR, which is both augmented reality and virtual reality, and how we think it's going to play in the Web3 metaverse and on the blockchain. As you can see here, Ottis actually has some pretty cool AR and VR wearables that he's going to be able to tell us about. So before we throw it to Ottis, I just want to share a little bit about where I see things going and what I'm excited about when looking at the Web3 metaverse. And I always make that distinction because the Web3 metaverse offers basically financial sovereignty, right? It offers a Web3 wallet, a crypto wallet that has real world value that you can then trade digital assets for. And it's just a whole new layer of the economy, which is what we're all about here at Web3 Warriors, is the creator economy and the idea that we're at the beginning of a brand new digital-based creator economy, which, obviously has its roots in, YouTube and other kind of decentralized media that have allowed people to take ownership of their message and their creativity and really find a way to get paid for their creativity. So it's really exciting to see how this is kind of evolving into the blockchain. And when looking at the Web3 metaverse, we're able to actually jump into people's spaces that they own and see some of their creativity and trade NFTs, buy and sell wearables. So yeah, the XR space, just there's no limits to where it can go, and where it already is pretty exciting. We've talked to a few people who have different AR platforms, and we've seen some really incredible builds. Looking at the Over metaverse, for example, they have an interesting AR platform where you're able to actually bring your assets into the real world. And I plan on putting my NFTs on display in the AR space in my own apartment here. So yeah, it's just really exciting things like that I'm looking forward to, and really being able to trade in the digital space and trade in the metaverse. So with that, I also want to throw it to anybody who joins us in the live stream. If you do have any questions, we will have an NFT giveaway for the most thought-provoking question after the podcast. And we do definitely encourage anybody who has questions to ask those questions in the chat. And we love having live conversation as well as we go through this conversation and interview with Ottis. So with that, I could go on about the Web3 metaverse and XR and the different avenues that are going to come, but we'll get into it with Ottis. So before I ask you about Purple Valley and really the backstory there, which I'm very intrigued about, could you just share a little bit about what brought you to Web3, Ottis, and why the blockchain and how did you get here? Welcome.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thanks for the welcome. That was a really nice intro. So yeah, about my Web3 journey, it was really crazy, because I've been doing art like since I'm a kid, and I always say this, like my mom, when I was really young, she was like doing college, like putting pictures together, and my father, he was programming, so we always had like a computer at home. So I practically like always used to combine both things. So I always like to use like new technologies and combine with the traditional art, like getting this thing from my parents. So I start my journey on Web3 because I was really excited about AR and VR. So I was doing like graffiti and 3D and all that stuff like when I was teenager. And then on 2018, around 2018, 2019, I discovered AR, augmented reality, right? And I was using Spark AR to create AR filters for Instagram. And that was really cool because at the time I was creating a video clip, a rap video clip, and I was going for something like a Star Wars VFX. I really want to do like holograms, So I
Nice.
was looking for like holograms, VFX tutorials, and then I saw like Spark AR and the whole AR technology, and this blew my mind. So I like dive into it, and then I've met some people. And this friend that he's literally like my brother nowadays, his
Hmm.
name is Jean Guilherme. He's from Brazil too, like from a city.
Nice.
And then like 2018, 2019, doing AR. And then on 2020, I launched my main project called Purple Valley. And then like it was really awesome because it was the first time that one of my project like literally get out of like the people that know me, like people outside my
Hmm.
circle was actually using it. So it was really, really incredible. But then something like really kind of bad happened, like someone stole the idea of the project and copycat like the logo, the name, the idea, all of it.
Wow.
And then yeah, it was like something really bad for me at the time. And then I literally got out of everything like in real life. I was deep diving, like I was at home, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was like thinking about everything that was happening at the time.
Wow.
And then I start building Purple Valley on some virtual worlds, even before I knew what metaverse is. So I was like on VR chat, GTA, role play, like building wearables and buildings about Purple Valley. So
Wow.
I literally get out of real life and then I dive into like virtual worlds. And this friend, Jean Guilherme, he understand that I was like on this bad time. So he literally every week he joined these virtual worlds just to talk with me. So he was the only connection I had with real life was
Wow.
him. And then someday, like it was January 17th of 2021, he came up on me and he said, "Hey, do you know about crypto art?" And then I was, "What is crypto art?" Like we live in virtual worlds, we know about AR, VR, we're doing a lot of stuff, but I have never heard of this crypto art. So he sent me this like, "What is crypto art?" And then he sent me this article about like Uno de Oliveira, one of Brazilian artists. He wrote an article, a text about crypto art in Portuguese here in Brazil, and then he just sent me this text, this article on Medium, and he said, "Man, I don't know what it is. I don't have the time to study right now, but I'm going to send to you because I know you're going to look at it." So the exact same day he sent to me, and then I read it. I understand about like how blockchain can protect your art and all that stuff. So it literally was perfect for me because I was really bad about the situation that someone copycat my project. So when I understand blockchain and like the history of blockchain and mint artworks, all that stuff, it was incredible. It literally blew my mind at the same day. So after this, I was like 5 months all day just learning about blockchain. So understand like proof
Nice.
of work, proof of stake, what is DeFi, all this kind of stuff. And at the main time, I understand the concept of metaverse, right? Like virtual worlds.
Right.
Even before, like I was on virtual worlds, but I have never met like blockchain virtual worlds, right?
Right.
So I was on Clubhouse talking about all of this, and then someone, "Hey, metaverse, 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 that." So I came up and say, "What is this metaverse thing?" And this guy he answers me like, "Oh, metaverse is when you combine AR and VR together." But on my mind, that was mixed reality, like at least
Right.
for me, when you combine AR and VR, it's mixed reality. So this got me my attention, like what is the metaverse? So I tried to understand it, and then I got into like Decentraland, crypto voxels, all these main virtual worlds on the blockchain.
Hmm.
And here on Crypto Voxel, it was really incredible because I've met so many people that was willing to help me, like say, "Hey, yeah, you can build here, you can show off your project here, let's go, I can teach you how to build." So it was literally my first home on Crypto Voxels. And these 5 months that I was learning about blockchain, I was building this gallery. So my first mint, like my first NFT, my Genesis, I was already with this gallery built, and we actually did a party here. So
Hmm.
I invite
Nice.
some Brazilian friends. One of my friends, he's a musician, he's a DJ. So he was playing on the second floor. We did a huge event to celebrate my first mint. So like this is the story behind how I joined Web3. It was
Man,
a mix
that's
of bad
amazing.
feelings with new technologies.
And it's awesome because I'm seeing this recurring thread through it because I ask all my guests how they jumped into Web3, right? And it's always that one friend, right, who like saw the potential
Yeah,
and like thought, hey, this guy or girl would be able to take advantage of this technology, and just like throws you a link, and then you just go down the rabbit hole. And specifically to the fact that you had someone steal your IP, claim it as their own, and had gone around claiming Purple Valley as their own, and you were able to basically use the blockchain to set the record straight, right? And how did that work
exactly.
out for you? Like, how did it work out for you?
Yeah, so this was literally like the main thing when I learned about blockchain. Like everything that was happening to me at the time, like this person that stole the IP, I was, hey, like now I can like prove it. I can show to all my collectors, everyone that supports my project, that I'm the creator. So it blew my mind, and I started creating it, and like the whole story about Purple Valley and how I invented the idea of it, and literally like everything that happened with the filter, it was the background to create my NFT art, like the art that is behind
That's
my
awesome.
NFTs. So everything is connected. Like I always say, like the first step, it was the AR that changed the nature into purple, right?
Hmm.
So it blew up. Like a lot of people have used it. We have reached 6 billion impressions and
Yeah,
almost 200 million shares.
I was
You
just
know,
showing the stats on here. It's quite impressive. 6.3 billion impressions. And I see you even got
yeah.
Cardi B on Vogue Brazil
Yeah, so
posing
it
with
was
it.
really crazy, at the time, and it literally like went worldwide, and it was something like a trend. So the first step of it was like to bring people to my reality, like to my artistic universe by the AR filter. So people were literally like changing their reality to my artistic universe using the AR filter. And then the second step of it was my 3D NFTs, 3D art, where like here on the middle, it was my genesis, my foundation genesis.
Right.
So it's now I was literally like bringing people to the 3D universe. So on the center of my artwork, you can see something like this bubble. It's a portal from Earth to Purple Valley world. And inside this portal, it's the cell phone where people were actually using the AR filter. So the second step of it was bringing people to the 3D universe using the AR uh, technology. So it's
Beautiful,
like
man.
kind of steps. And now I'm on the third step, like I'm creating VR paintings. So I use my virtual reality headset to create abstract paintings, and it's all combined with the Purple Valley idea.
That's awesome. Yeah. So the Purple Valley, why do you love purple so much? I gotta ask, as somebody who also loves purple, and our show's theme, our branding is all purple as well. What do you
Yeah,
think it is?
this is
I've been
really
seeing it's a common thread I see in Web3. A lot of the purple and greens, and I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, this is really funny because purple is not my favorite color. It's
Right.
actually red. So why
Interesting.
purple? Because when I was creating Purple Valley idea, I really want to create something that everyone could use it. So I was, hey, what can I bring to my artistic universe that literally anyone could use it? So I was thinking, hey, if I could change the color of nature, because literally anywhere you go, you're probably going to see nature. So any location of the world, right? So it's, hey, I'm going to change the color of nature. So this was the main idea, right? And then when I got the perfect color mask of green to create this, I was, hey, so now what color I'm going to change it? So I grabbed the color wheel and I saw that purple was the opposite color of green.
Ah,
So I was, hey, I'm going to put on the opposite color so it's going to get like this magical feeling.
yeah.
So purple, the purple color was actually like a consequence of the idea. Like the
Nice.
main idea was to change the color of nature.
And that's a
And
real kind
then
of creator's eye, right? Because people who know design know that on that color wheel, it's the opposites tend to attract, right? And they tend to go well
yeah,
together. So the idea of flipping from green to purple, cool. So that's where it
yeah.
came from, eh? That's really
And
neat,
then
man.
everything started to like blow up, like getting this trend. So then I start using purple as my signature, you know.
No doubt,
And
no
then
doubt.
like nowadays I really love this color, you know, like even like red is my favorite color. I do think like purple represents me more, you
Yeah, no doubt. I like
know.
it. It's a vibe for sure. And so you were saying you've been making these AR and VR pieces in Gravity Sketch. Can you explain
Yeah,
the process?
so
What's the process on that? And maybe for those who don't know, what is Gravity Sketch?
yeah, I work with Gravity Sketch, but I do use some other tools, you know, especially when I'm creating like voxels wearables. I use some voxel VR softwares. There is like a few of them, like Vox VR and InBlocks. There is a few of them.
Hmm.
So my process is I really like to create like since I've come from AR, I want to create these wearables and try to mix with real life, you know. So I jump into VR. So I pick up my virtual reality headset, and then I start creating these wearables. Some of them are like masks, some of them like T-shirts, and then I mint as crypto voxels wearables. So this is actually like NFTs. You can buy them, you can wear on your digital character, and then I create AR effects for them. So you can actually use them on real life. Some of this example over here. So you can put the mask on yourself. And this other example here where you can place it on your world, you know, like real life world.
It's like as a statue, like what you have happening here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's really cool.
So yeah, I try to combine AR and VR into my wearables creations just to mix everything, all my skills that I know, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing. And to clarify, XR is extended reality, right? And it's just the mashup of both VR and AR, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
at
I
least
just want to
where
clarify for the listeners. That's how I've always understood it, and you're more of an expert than me, so I just wanted to be
yeah,
super
so
clear
for
so we don't
me,
confuse
like
people.
yeah. So XR, extended reality, is when you are talking about three technologies like AR, VR, and MR.
Hmm.
So AR, it's augmented reality, where you are going to bring like digital things into reality. You know, so I think like the main examples here are like Pokemon Go or Instagram, Snapchat filters. You
Yeah.
know, so we are bringing digital assets to real life. By the other hand, we have virtual reality where you're going to like wear this virtual headset. So you're going to play something in your eyes and you're literally going to be on a 3D environment, you
Yeah.
know?
Ready
So
Player
this is
One
virtual
style.
reality. And by the other hand, we have mixed reality, and it's when you combine AR and VR in the same thing, you know? So there is a few examples of mixed reality, but the most common use is when you want to show people what you are like creating in virtual reality. So I can show you like
Hmm.
there is a video that I've made. So it's me, like it's a video of me using the VR headset, and people can see what I'm drawing because it has AR feature. So you're literally seeing what I'm drawing. So when you
Live,
combine
like,
AR and VR, you
right.
have mixed reality. And
That's really
extended
cool.
reality, like XR, is when you are talking about one of these three subjects, you
Yeah,
know?
the big broad umbrella.
Yeah,
That's the big
exactly.
umbrella term. I have
Yeah,
not
exactly.
seen mixed reality in practice, I don't think. I know Creatress has. Are you familiar with Creatress?
You mean, no, I don't think
She's
so.
an NFT artist who I met her in New York, but I had talked to her on Clubhouse before then. And she has a whole thing where she dances in Gravity Sketch and makes like kind of
Yeah,
random artworks through the dance, you know? And then she sells
yeah,
them as NFTs, which is kind of cool. And you get to see the actual dance and then you see the finished product as well. And
yeah.
I was
That's
just thinking,
probably
I was just wondering, like, would that be considered mixed reality? But I don't think so because you're not really seeing the AR in augmented reality while she's doing it. Like you would watch it on a screen. That's usually how she does it. So she'll be in VR dancing, making this AR asset, right? But the asset itself is just being shown on a screen while she does it. So I don't know if that
yeah.
qualifies as mixed
Well,
reality.
if she's wearing the VR headset and you're actually seeing what she's drawing, this is mixed reality, you
Ah,
know?
okay.
Because so for you can see what she's drawing,
Hmm.
you're literally picking digital assets
You're,
and putting in real life. So
yeah,
that's the AR technology behind it, you know?
awesome. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
guess I have. I guess I have experienced mixed reality. All right, let's
Yeah,
go.
that's one of the examples. There is other examples of mixed reality, but that's the most common use, you know.
Very cool, very cool. So I just want to reiterate, thank you to everybody who's tapped in on the live stream. If you do have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. We will reward the most thought-provoking question with a NFT giveaway after the podcast. But really cool. That was a great breakdown of XR as the umbrella term and VR, AR, and MR, which I haven't really thought of in that context before. So very cool. Thanks for sharing that. So another question I have to ask you, coming from Brazil, I was remiss to mention that in my intro. I love talking to people from all different corners of the globe. It is a very important aspect of Web3, I think, and the NFT community. But I know in Brazil, Tezos is fairly big, right? Tezos is pretty popular, and I think between India or Brazil, I think are the top users of Tezos. So I'm a little bit curious. I've seen that you have a lot, and I know I picked up at least one or two, I think, of your Tezos NFTs, which are really cool, kind of orb theme. But yeah, why is Tezos so popular in Brazil, and why have you leaned towards it?
Yeah. So I always say, like, you can't talk about crypto art here in Brazil without mentioning Tezos.
Hmm.
And there is two main reasons about that, you know. The first main reason is because when we started like this journey, I mean the Brazilian artists, right? Ethereum gas fees was literally impossible for us,
Right.
you know. So a lot of artists would get out of the space because of Ethereum gas fees. So with Tezos, the fees were way there was almost no fees at all. You know,
Right.
it was like cents of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the entry point of Brazilian artists. The second main reason is because Hiket Nunc, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Hiket Nunc, it's a Brazilian platform. The creator of Hiket Nunc, it's a Brazilian guy named Rafael. So he started this project, and because he's from Brazil, a lot of artists were diving into Hiket Nunc and like getting onboarding by him and his team and people that were like next to them, you know. So especially like I see that Hiket Nunc was the home of Brazilian artists, you know, because
Cool.
of the low gas fees and because the actual platform was created by a Brazilian guy. You know?
That's
So
awesome.
these two
Mm-hmm.
main reasons combined makes that Brazilian artists dive into Hackathon, dive into Tezos, and I think there is like this third thing that because on Tezos it's really friendly, you know, like you're going to see a lot of artists collecting from other artists, and the community is at least on my point, like back in early 2021, there it was way friendly than Ethereum, you know. I know that right now it's like mixed and Ethereum. I love Ethereum right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm minting all my artworks there, but back in the day, like back in the day is crazy, but back
Back
in
in the
early
day,
2021,
12 months ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
back in the day, 12 months ago, like Tezos was way friendly for Brazilian artists. So this was the main reason that came up for Brazilian artists diving into Tezos and Hiket Nunc, you know.
Very cool. And how do you feel about like the long-term decentralization and immutability of Tezos? You know, like I guess that's kind of one criticism some people might have. I know same thing with Solana. But yeah, just as a blockchain, you know, on its fundamentals, I don't know much about it. So I don't know. Like I think for art alone, it could exist and be awesome. But I don't know if it has a bigger DeFi universe and if you think it's going to have real financial applications outside of the kind of art space, or where do you see Tezos going?
Yeah. Well, I do have seen some DeFi applications into Tezos. You know, I'm not too much into DeFi, but I have seen and like I have seen like people that are really OG from Tezos, like way before he get known, like
Hmm.
years ago, they were always on DeFi. So there is a big DeFi applications on Tezos, and some of the people that I've most they have a lot of knowledge, you know. They always say that Tesla is really good and there is like different from Ethereum that people can vote on a lot of stuff at the same time. So I don't really dig into this really special things about Tezos, but I do see that Tezos has its own ecosystem, and at least for art, I really see that it's going to be big in the future. It's already big,
Yeah,
but I
it
do see
is.
like
Yeah.
getting bigger and bigger, for artists,
Yeah, that's awesome. So I would agree. I don't think it's going anywhere for sure. And as far as the token
Yeah.
price, the actual Tezos price, I mean, maybe it'll go back up to $10, $15 at one point, but I kind of hope not. But, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the good days when Tezos was $8.
Right, I bet. As a Tezos art seller, that would have been pretty amazing, eh? So I did want to ask also on the topic of XR and, the fact that in the Web3 metaverse, you're able to trade and sell your XR or AR assets. Where do you see the Web3 metaverse kind of pushing this? Like I would say you're kind of at the forefront. You've been interviewed by CNN Brazil, right, on the topic of the metaverse. So you're definitely deep in it and offering a lot of advice. So where do you see it kind of like evolving to?
Yeah. So I always say, like, here in Brazil, I'm doing art for almost like 15 years. Like my first art sale, I was literally a kid, and I've been creating like Pokemon cards since like 4 or 5 years. So I've been always creating art, and I had never a real life gallery here in Brazil. So why like metaverse is so important for me is this, like I it was the first time that I could get a gallery in virtual worlds, so I can show my project, all that stuff. So this is why I dig into metaverse and virtual worlds at the first point. So on my point of view, we're going to get a lot of exposure on the metaverse idea when AR glasses going to be a thing. I don't think this is we are going to wait like for 7, 8 years so we can actually have like AR glass for everyone or almost everyone. But when we have this, and like with my AR glass, I can go like to the streets, like grab a coffee on some Starbucks, and I can see people wearing wearables, on real life using my AR glasses. So I do think this is going to be the first, uh, one of the first movements that's going to explode and bring a lot of attention to wearables and virtual worlds and NFTs at the same time. At the other hand, I do think that we can't ignore a future without virtual reality. I do think that VR is going to be on our everyday, I mean, on schools, on also on work, on socials. So we are going to have a lot of VR experience, and this will also bring a lot of attention to VR virtual worlds.
Yeah.
But the main reason I think that metaverse is going to blow up is because of education. So I can be like on my home, and I can go to some university, some college, and I can actually see like a teacher doing some classes in virtual reality or even on web browser. So, and if you see like our kids, like the younger ones, like our cousins, our kids, they are having a lot of fun with like Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft. So they already understood this concept of being on a
Yep.
virtual world, like creating on virtual worlds, creating worlds, creating wearables, creating digital assets on virtual worlds. They already understand this. So I do think on the next bull run, all that stuff, like the
Yeah.
next technologies, the AR glasses, the improvement of virtual reality headsets, and our kids, the younger ones, being more like a little more age,
Yeah.
everything combined will bring a lot of attention to virtual worlds and to the metaverse itself.
Most
That's
definitely.
my point about metaverse at the moment. So I do think like even the metaverse world has been created in 1992 on the Snow Crash book. Like there is
Mhm.
decades that it has been created. We are still on a really early stage of this metaverse concept.
Yeah, I noticed your avatar in Crypto Voxels was carrying the Snow Crash book.
Yeah.
got the reference there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you touched on a lot of important points there. I definitely think education is a really obvious utility, especially given, recent pandemics and who knows what happens in the future. Just having that ability to jump into the metaverse and have real official classes with all your actual peers there and your teacher at the front of the room and the whole thing. And it's actually even more immersive because you can do so many other things and like learn in a kind of applied fashion that maybe wasn't as easy in some ways in the real classrooms, or at least it's just a different form, I guess, of applied learning. But yeah, it's really exciting. And when you look at the actual trading of digital assets and the kind of economic side of it, right? Obviously, you're selling NFTs on Tezos, you're selling NFTs on Foundation, on Ethereum. How do you see the economy going? Is it kind of same situation as far as like, the kids are going to grow up and realize that everything they're making in, Roblox or Minecraft could be made on crypto voxels and actually sold for real money, or it's just the next bull run? How do you see the trading side of things kind of evolving?
Yeah. So, like I said, I really think that the kids on the next years, they are going to understand what is NFT. Like, it's going to be so simple to them, you know. So this is why I think the economy will be huge for NFTs. And at the other point of it, I do think like nowadays NFTs is one of the best ways to prove ownership, you know. So we already like have seen like people doing NFTs about real apartments, like real flats and real like cars, all that stuff. So I do think NFTs will be huge in the future to prove ownership, not into digital world, but also in the real life world, you know?
Yeah, no
So
doubt.
all of this combined, we are going to see a bunch of NFT economy, like things are going to be great for NFT, at least on my point of view, not only for art, but for clothes, for brandings, for real life apartments. So
Yeah,
I
no, it's
just can't
exciting.
wait to see this.
Yeah, that's the future I'm looking forward to as well, where it's just ubiquitous and everyone just understands the value in these digital assets. Or, I mean, it's never going to be for everybody, just like even right now, not everybody is even totally tech savvy when it comes to the internet. And maybe,
Yeah.
It'll be a while before it's super ubiquitous. But to your point about proving authenticity, proving ownership, just like you did with the Purple Valley, taking back your IP and saying, no, I made this is mine, and being able to
Yeah.
kind of mint that on the blockchain forever, indisputably. And I don't think anybody, whoever that person is who took your idea, is going to step up and try to say otherwise. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's exciting that
It's a crazy
opportunity.
story. It's the bad part of my story, but it was part of it. And nowadays I say it like, because that this thing happened to me, like this person stole the IP, I was off real life and I was into virtual worlds. So when I understand like CryptoVox, Decentraland, it was so easy to me because I was already creating, like building on virtual worlds like VR chat and GTA
Yeah.
roleplay.
So we have that in
So it
common.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like the experience that I had to understand crypto voxels way easier.
I think so.
So
To your other point about Roblox and Minecraft, like myself, I was looking at the digital space, not having been necessarily scorned or had an issue, with the real world per se, but I've always looked at gaming and video games like Grand Theft Auto or even Fortnite and these other spaces that are just kind of escapes, right? I see them as digital escapes. And I was looking at VR chat, trying to basically rig a whole suit. You know how you can create those different kind of like Vroid suits where you can then rig it to your face and actually like show up as an animated character. I was looking into that, and before I learned about NFTs and the digital space and the idea that there can be all this new value in the digital world, and so I got kind of pulled away from it, and I never really went back to VR chat. And I also have an issue with the Oculus, and I really don't want to buy one, and so I just can't find like the best VR solution. So I've been hesitant in really taking that plunge. Do you have any thoughts on your favorite VR headset or any advice for me?
yeah, well, you can go with Pico 4. You know, I can write to you
Binko?
PICO.
Okay.
Yeah, PICO 4. It's like if you're like a user, you want to try VR, you want to create stuff in VR. Uh, the Oculus Quest 2 and Pico 4, it's the most common use right now. you
Okay.
know. And of course, if you're like a really you want to create like games in VR, then you can go with like Virtual 3 and like the Steam one. So there is some headsets that's really accurate and like more performance than this that I've mentioned, you
Right.
know.
Right.
But there is a lot of types of VR headsets. For me, at least, I do like the Quest 2. I do know all the problems that has and the Facebook account need, but
Yeah.
now they took off the Facebook account, so you can log without a Facebook account, you know, all that stuff. But Pico 4 and Quest 2 for like a common user, on my point of view, is the best ones, you know. Then
Okay.
if you want to go higher, you can get like the Virtual 3 and all that stuff, you know.
Yeah, I was looking at the one from Steam there, which is definitely way higher on price. I think it's Pico
Yeah.
4, right? Did you type it in the chat? PICO 4?
Yeah, I think it's Pico,
Yeah,
PICO, you know.
got you. Very cool.
Yeah.
There, another non-Oculus option. I like that because, yeah, I just don't know. I don't trust that company with my data. Even if they're
Yeah.
not making me sign in, it's just like, I'd rather not, but, you know, no judgment. Yeah, no, that's really exciting. And what about AR when you think about like current platforms? What are you partial to? Obviously, like Snapchat and Instagram are the obvious ones for filters. But when you're looking at Web3 options, like I mentioned over earlier, I know what's the other one? There's also Superworld. Do you have a preferred platform you've seen that you're really interested in when it comes to the AR application?
Yeah, so Super World is really cool.
Hmm.
I think it will get a lot of attention in the future. It already has, right? But it will get more. And there is this new one called Filta, FILTA, that they are trading AR effects with Ethereum, you know, like as NFTs. So
Interesting.
it's kind of the idea is really cool, you know.
So these are all
So
Ethereum NFTs that are AR assets, essentially.
yeah,
So it's like a
so you
marketplace for,
mint.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a marketplace for AR filters using NFTs, you know.
Hmm.
So you're going to mint an AR filter and you're going to use it on their app, you know.
Very cool.
But I do think that for the future of AR, the most common use will be web AR, that you're going to host the experience in the web. So
Hmm.
people don't need to like download an app or something like this
Yeah.
to use it, you know. I do think this will be the common use, but we still need some advances
I was
to
gonna
it be
say,
like,
how does the application for that work? It's just TBD, right? Hasn't quite been determined
yeah,
yet. Like,
there's a few examples. For example, the early days of Hicketnung, if you minted
mm,
any GLB, like a 3D object, you know,
hmm.
it will already have AR feature indexed,
I
you
remember
know.
them
So
mentioning that actually.
anyone,
Now that you mention it, I remember that from the early days, and I bought a few 3D assets too. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So you could use like your cell phone, go to Hicketnung, go to any 3D object, any GLB, and then you're going to see it on AR, you know.
Mm.
And there is a few examples of it. There is some hosts that create of this too, like create web AR experience for you. So I'm really excited to see web AR getting more attention and like more technologies behind it, you know.
That's really cool. I never even thought about web AR as a function. And when looking at like, yeah, I guess Superworld, Over is one I look at. I think they have very similar functionality, but Over I would say is a bit more accessible. I would definitely recommend. I can share a link with you for that one. It's another cool AR platform. But looking at those ones where they actually like purchase a lot of land, you know, like a little hex or a square over the like Google map essentially, and you then own that piece of land in the AR world. What do you think about that as a business case and like into the future? I mean, it almost seems like one metaverse or one AR metaverse has to rule them all, or I don't know, like how does that work? To your point, you kind of need that middle person, that application to make it relevant, right?
Yeah, so on my point, I think we're going to see a lot of virtual worlds and AR virtual worlds used, you know,
Mm.
by people. So at least like at now, every week, some virtual world, like someone create a new virtual world, you know. And I do think this is good, you know, because all of these different virtual worlds will have some special features and special things on each of them, you know. So if you want to something like, I just want a virtual world to play music, there is one of them. If you want a virtual world just to showcase wearables, there is another one, you know. So for my point of view is at the same time we have like a web browser, the internet, that I can go to some platforms that are only for videos, other platforms that are only for photos, only for text. We are going to have like different virtual worlds that has its own special features, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So this is my, like, at least on my point of view, like if you want to see something you can go like to YouTube or Twitch. If you want to see some text, you're going to Twitter, you know.
Mm.
If you want to see photos, you can go to Instagram or TikTok, you know. So
Right.
we already have different websites, different platforms on the original internet, and I do think this is going to happen with the same thing on virtual worlds, you know.
That makes
And
sense.
at least like I do have a list here with over 100 virtual worlds, you know. So we always talk about like, oh, CryptoVoxel, Decentraland, Sandbox, like some new space, these main ones, but there is so many other behind that, the main ones, you know.
Wow.
So every day are going to someone create a new virtual world, a new AR platform, and I think this is good, you know, because I want to listen to music on YouTube, but I also want to listen to music on Spotify, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think like having different platforms of virtual worlds will increase the attention of it and like where I'm going to be, you know.
And so, what
And
do
I
you
do think
think?
like in the future,
Yeah.
we are going to have something like, at least on my point of view, we are going to have something like a big web browser that you can connect your identity, you know, and you can like dive into portals and like one time I'm in CryptoVoxels and then I just go through a portal and I'll be on the central end and
Yeah, that was
I
basically my
really
next question.
yeah, and I really love the idea of like wearables that you can that have like different outputs for this virtual world. So something like, let me just give an example. I create my purple tree wearable, right?
Hmm.
But this purple tree, this 3D object, it has a voxel output, so it can be seen on crypto voxels, but it also has a low poly output, so it can be seen on the central end. But it's the same NFT, you know, so
Right.
you are going to buy this NFT, have different outputs, and you're going to see your identity. Something like, of course, like we have different worlds, you know, like so there is worlds that are 2D, there are pixel ones, there are 3D ones. So of course, we still need to create this interoperability about wearables and how we're going to see this. But I do think we are going to have this major metaverse, something like that, like a big browser that
Yeah.
you can dive into portals and go through a lot of different virtual worlds, you know.
Yeah, maybe it's just the Brave browser. I don't know. Like it's like a future where basically what you're saying is virtual worlds are as ubiquitous as websites, essentially, right? And that
Yeah.
like there will be those that cater to specific target audiences. And I definitely see that. And I'm glad you got into interoperability because that was definitely my next question, because that's always kind of what comes up when you're looking at, because I've heard obviously there's that narrative out there that, you know, one metaverse is just going to be the cool one, kind of Ready Player Me style, or Ready Player One. I mean, you're familiar with Ready Player One, right? The video,
Yeah, of
or
course.
the movie slash comic or book. So in that sense, right, there's kind of this narrative that there is going to be a metaverse that just everyone wants to rush to because it's just so amazing, and then all the other ones just kind of become irrelevant, right? But the flip side of that, I think, is more realistic. And to your point, you know, being able to cater to different audiences and then actually be able to jump from one metaverse to another seamlessly is kind of already an option if you have a strong enough computer, right? And you're on a desktop. And I think about like in the Brave browser, to your point about the identity, right? Once you connect your identity to a specific Web3 wallet, or it gives you the option to actually have several different identities maybe, but in a sense, you're creating that, what you just talked about, where you do have like an actual valuable identity attached to your browser that you're then jumping into different, like if they're on Ethereum, for example, you can jump in and have the same username and use the same wallet. So all your assets will be viewable on all these different metaverses that are on the Ethereum blockchain, right? But how do you see that interoperability working? For example, I see you got a Tesland piece of property there. So when you're looking at properties in the future, which are not as popular yet, but I imagine they will be on Solana and Tezos and other blockchains, do you think that will kind of complicate the interoperability?
So I don't think so. I do think like we are going to see these as like different networks, but everything is going to be something like combined.
Mm,
So we are going to like I'm going to give an example on cyber, right? The on cyber galleries.
right,
You can already connect a Tezos wallet and a Ethereum wallet on the same profile,
right.
and like show both NFTs at the same gallery. So I do think this is going to happen. Like we are going only to see these different blockchains as different networks, but we are going to connect them together at some way, just like on cyber does it.
Right.
So I do think we're going to have like virtual worlds on Tez, on Solana, on Ethereum, on all these major blockchains, the main ones, and at somehow, some place, somewhere, we are going to dive into portals and like be jumping to one to another one.
So it won't even be a
And
problem. And when you think about it, even right
yeah,
now, right? Like in crypto voxels, you could link out to your Tesland lot and you could just jump over from crypto voxels into Tesland. So I'm not too
exactly.
familiar with Tesland. I found this on your link tree. I'd love to hear what is Tesland. And to
Yeah,
your point earlier, you talked about being able to create these virtual galleries, right? And that's definitely a huge use case that we've seen popping up, basically since early last year when people started bringing NFTs into the metaverse. But yeah, it looks like you've got a bit of a gallery started here. But yeah, what is Tesland and how are you planning to build your gallery out here?
yeah. So Tesland is a really cool concept because everything that has on Tesland, it's actually NFTs, literally everything.
Wow.
So all buildings, all paintings, all nature items, literally everything that you see on Tesland are NFTs. So this has some really cool things like because it's everything on the blockchain, right?
Mm.
Someone could came up and create like a mod version of Tesla, like something like, oh, I want to create my own Tesla, and then index everything, something like what happens with OpenSea that index all Ethereum NFTs.
Yeah.
We someone could come up and create its own version of Tesla. I think that nobody have done that yet, but this is the main reason behind Tesla, on my point of view, because Tesla is so different of other virtual worlds. So Tesla was one of the first virtual worlds on Tezos. I do think it's the first one, but I don't know for
I've
sure.
never
But
heard of another one. I feel like I heard someone mention it at one point, but I never actually got to check it out. So I'm glad I was able to check your little spot out here. It's pretty cool. Can you fly in Tesland? I'm having
no, you
difficulties.
can't fly. Like the founders of Tesla, they really want a real life experience.
Mm,
So if you see like you can't run, so it's to create this scale perspective. You can't fly, so it's something like a real life experience, like you're going to walk
yeah.
over these buildings and see this experience. And Tesla has another different thing. It's they don't have scarcity. Like the founder are always going to mint new place. They call their land place, right? So they're always minting new place, and this place are like low entry price. They're
Mm.
not like billions of dollars like some of other virtual
Right.
worlds. They are literally like just a few tests. So anyone, like actually like almost anyone could join this. So it's a virtual world, unlimited virtual world, where he's always going to mint new place, and these prices are not too high. So anyone that wants to build there could actually came.
So it's
So these are the two different things about Tesla. It was actually the first virtual world that I see that it has this concept of being unlimited and no scarcity of lands.
mhm.
And the second thing, because everything that you see, it's actually NFTs. Different, like for example, on crypto voxels, I can drag an image that is not an NFT.
Right.
I can drag a 3D object that is not an NFT.
Mhm.
And even on the central land, you can create like a building that's not an NFT. Like
Right.
here on Tesla land, everything's NFTs, even the buildings, everything.
That's really interesting. I want to say Somnium Space has a similar rule or set of limits, but I could be wrong. But I feel like almost everything in Somnium Space is an NFT as well, if not everything. But this is really cool. And yeah, I'm glad that Tezos has a metaverse started. I'm kind of curious as to why Solana doesn't, because I heard all this hype, back during the bull market about how basically Solana allows better support for Unreal Engine because it uses Rust language. And I thought that that would lead to a whole bunch of cool metaverses, but the only metaverse I did invest in on Solana went belly up, unfortunately. The creator seemed like a genuine guy, but the project failed. So TBD on Solana metaverses, but it's cool to see that Tezos has one. And yeah, so that's interesting with no scarcity. I guess their pitch is not a financial investment pitch, right?
Exactly.
It's just like, we're here to have fun in the metaverse. We're not guaranteeing you any increase on the value of your lot or anything like that. Like, just come here and build and create.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think it was the first virtual world on the blockchain that I've seen this concept, like, yeah, we're going to be unlimited, anyone can join us. And it's cool because like you're watching right now, like these things on the roof of my gallery are actually other artists' NFTs. So you can showcase your NFT collection, like placing on your land, So it's really cool, like how it's a different way to showcase your collection.
That is really cool. You got a car almost falling off your roof, man.
Yeah. And the car is purple, so.
Of course it is. No, it's really cool. I'm glad we got to check that out. So that's Tezland. It's TZ1AND.com. So it's spelt in true gamer style there. Tezland.com with the number 1 as the L. So I got to ask, do you have a favorite blockchain? Is it Tezos? Or you're kind of a blockchain agnostic?
And I think I'm Tezos and Ethereum lover, Yeah, like for me, those are the best ones at the moment for art, And I try to follow some things on Solana, but I have never mint anything there. So I have never stepped into it. I have collected some NFTs there, but I have never mint my artwork there. So I'm still using with Tezos and Ethereum. Like Ethereum was my home because of crypto voxels, and then Hiketnunk was my second home. So they are always going to be on my heart,
There you go. I like it. That's awesome. So I'm curious, when looking at your Tezos NFTs and your Foundation NFTs, they're very cool. How do you decide which ones to mint where?
Yeah. So on Ethereum, I try to create more. How can I explain this? Like on Tezos, it was like a collectible cards experience, And on Ethereum, they always have some history behind of it. So it's something like on Tezos, it's like a Pokemon card, and on Ethereum, they always have a history behind the piece. So it has more lore about it, Cool. So it's the same universe, but 2 different things. And on Tezos, I was minting like artworks that was referring to actually real life place. So I do have this list of all the countries that Purple Valley have gone through, like people on these countries that have used my AR filter. So I have this list, and I was like picking images of these people using my AR filters on these countries, and then recreating this on 3D. And so on Tezos, it's the collectible cards of the countries, And on Ethereum, it has some special lore behind it,
And so when you say it's collectible cards of the countries, it's legit someone using your Purple Valley filter in the country that's named here. So for example, I'm looking at number 4 and it says Swiss Alps. So this is an actual picture.
It's like the location. Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool, man. That's a really cool concept. And so I guess, like you said, that just came out of like, wow, this filter is being used in all the different corners of the world. I should see what I can actually get. I want to see like the people that are taking these pictures. And so they submit it to you for this purpose, or do you just kind of pull them off of Instagram?
Yeah, I pulled them off from Instagram, and I always like reach them out and say, hey, I really love this picture. Like I'm doing this concept of like recreating this real life place on 3D, but of course, like inside my artistic universe. So can I use your photo as a background reference to create the artwork? And everyone like, hey, yes, of course, this is going to be dope. Nice. So I try to mix all of this, like the AR filters, how it went all over the world and the pictures of people using it and AR, VR. I try to mix everything to my artistic universe, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then after you mint it, you can just share the link with them and say, "Hey, here's the finished product." You know?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And this one in Japan is looking very eerie. It's almost like the filter had an interesting effect on these greenery. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I want to reiterate again, if there are any questions in the chat, we're going to be winding down soon. I know Ottis is a busy guy. He's got to get back to somewhere. This is our special Sunday edition of the podcast because we did have a little bit of issues setting up that AV yesterday, but glad we were able to pull everything together. So if you do have any questions, ask them now from the chat. But I have a last question for you that I always ask all of our guests, and I think you probably have some good words of wisdom to share. But that is, when you're looking at the doubters, and the people who kind of criticize blockchain and maybe just don't understand the power of NFTs, or think that maybe when bringing NFTs into art is somehow actually devaluing the art, what do you say to the critics, basically, that think NFTs are not a benefit?
Just wait 5 years. Everyone going to be on NFTs. Like, I do think like all influencers, all YouTube, everyone that on internet, they're going to use NFTs at some point. And like, you're going to go to a NBA event and the ticket will be an NFT and you're not even going to understand it. You're not even going to see it, as an NFT. And one thing that I always say to the critics is everyone that use Instagram, Snapchat probably already have used a filter, right? This is almost like 90% sure that everyone already use filters. But people don't use the word AR. They don't say, hey, I'm going to use an augmented reality effect right now. No, they don't use this word. They always use, I'm going to use this filter and then publish this video on my Instagram, right?
Yeah.
So these technologies, they come to our daily life without we're noticing it, So this is going to happen with NFTs. You're going to, like, your car already has a unique ID. Your apartment already has an unique ID. Your phone already has an unique ID.
True.
So NFTs are going to be on the future on a lot of things, and we are not going to even say the NFT world.
Right. It's a future where you're creating that digital asset without necessarily needing to even know what it is. To that point, I think Starbucks' recent announcement was probably a hint at what we were going to be seeing. I don't know if you saw that one. They're basically, so they have their new gift card system that's going to be built on Polygon, essentially. And you're going to be able to jump into essentially a Starbucks metaverse and engage with certain things and play their little in-metaverse games for points, which will basically get you free coffee. You'll probably be able to actually order your coffee within the metaverse, all that kind of interesting stuff. So, and that's where you're not going to hear them say, hey, like, support NFTs or come get our points on the blockchain. Like, no, they're just going to say, here's our new reward system. You can jump into our cool digital space and, have fun, right? So
we're going to use NFTs for a lot of things in real life, and people are not going to mention NFT word. That's my point of it, And like I said, I do think, like, at the moment, on 2022, NFTs are one of the most perfect ways to prove ownership, One of the best ways to prove ownership nowadays, it's NFTs, even for real life things. And on the system that we live, we need to prove ownership every day.
Yep.
I always say, like, when you enter your home, when you literally, like, turn your key to open your door at your home, you're proving ownership. So this is why NFTs are going to be widely used on the future. That's my main point of it.
Yeah, that's what the future we're looking forward to. That's why we're building out here with the Web3 Warriors. I wanted to ask too, you're coming from Brazil, so obviously, like you said, Tezos pretty big out there. In general, what is the kind of Web3 atmosphere? How is the social kind of dynamics, either opposing it or supporting it? How are things for the blockchain down in Brazil?
Yeah, so this is kind of crazy because a few months ago, there was this research saying that Brazil is the second most country that use NFTs on the world. You
Wow.
know,
And
saying that like
what was the
it's a really
first?
huge. I think it's United States, but
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Okay. Cool.
But I do think that I do know that on this research, this paper was saying that Brazil is the second one.
Hmm.
But when you go to the streets, when you talk to people on the streets,
Right.
people don't know about NFTs, you know?
Hmm.
So it's kind of crazy because you see like a lot of Brazilian artists on Twitter, on Instagram, you know, like creating NFTs, doing Web3 things. But on the streets, people don't actually talk about it, you know? And I tried this once. I got into São Paulo, another city, another big city here in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
So I tried this experiment because since I don't know anyone in São Paulo, when I was like into Uber or like any place, I was, hey, do you know about NFTs? And people always answer me like either no, or they was like, oh, it's like the Neymar's picture profile picture, right? Because Neymar bought Bored Ape
Nice.
last year, right? So they were, oh, hey, it's the little monkey of Neymar's little monkey, right?
Yeah.
So
And
it's
those
kind of
apes are
crazy,
doing
you
good
know?
with their celebrity endorsements, hey?
Yeah. So this was kind of crazy to me. Like people, or they didn't knew anything about NFTs, or they were mentioning an Neymar Bored Ape. You know. So I
Nice.
think this is the point right now in Brazil. We do have some people that are literally diving into it and like buy NFTs, collect NFTs, create NFTs, and other people that only know about Neymar's little monkey. You know, literally like, as they say.
Wow, that's wild. No, it's cool, and I'm really inspired by the Tezos community, and especially in Brazil. And Teia.art, is that's still Brazilian, right? Teia?
Yeah, so Hiket Nung, the founder of Hiket Nung, Rafael, he jumped off, right? He discontinued the project. He shut down the servers,
Mhm.
and this was kind of crazy at the time. It was on November last year that this happened, and this kind of get a lot of attention on the Brazilian community. And we are like, oh, now what's going to happen now? Because Hiket Nung was our home, all that stuff, and then there is this guy. He bought the other website. It was hiketnung.art.
Mhm.
If I'm
Or
not
dot
wrong.
XYZ? Or no, yeah, maybe dot art.
Yeah,
You're
no,
right. Yeah.
the
Dot
dot
XYZ was the
XYZ
original
was the
one.
original. Yeah,
Right.
it was the original one. And then this collector, I think he's from United States. He got the dot art, and then he just got all GitHub, GitHub repository, and publish it on this new address. You know, so this was creating a lot of confusion and like how an outsider person, someone from outside Brazil,
Mm.
was getting the Hiketnunk.art, all that stuff. So then the Hiketnunk community back in the day, they were creating, I forgot the name of it, but it's like a lot of people were trying to create new tools inside of Hiketnunk. So these people were already like creating a community around it. And when everything that happened, they came up together and say, hey, let's, with the community, let's create a new name, let's create a new website, and let's continue Hiketnunk project. And anyone could create a new word, like vote for a new word to this new website.
Right.
So a lot of people was throwing new words on the voting system, but on the community use it Teia because Teia is a Portuguese word. Just to mentioning like the Brazilian ecosystem that created Hiketnunk, all that
Mhm.
stuff. So Teia.art, it's now like the community, the Hiketnunk community that were all back in the day, they are like now driving Teia.art. You know,
For sure.
that's the point of it.
Yeah, it's really cool. And what does Teia mean in Portuguese?
It's something like web, you know,
Web?
like yeah, like let me see if I
Like a
can
spider web?
spider web, exactly. So Teia, it's something like spider web, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see it. Yeah, it's really inspiring. I love the Tez community. I love the Tez art. It's awesome. And it's so affordable, which I don't know if that's a good thing. Sometimes I feel bad. I'm like, why is this amazing piece of art only one Tez? I don't understand it. But I'll buy it though. But yeah, no, I'm sure the market's going to continue to go up, and I think we're just at the beginning, you know. And maybe there was a time when Ethereum NFTs seemed dirt cheap too, you know, for the OGs at least, the people that got the Ethereum early. You know, it's doesn't seem like as much to them, maybe. Awesome. Well, I don't think we have any more questions from the chat. Did you have any final thoughts or anything you want to add there, Ottis, before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. Always nice to talk with you. You were always a friend on the community and helping artists and spotlighting artists. So this is really nice to be here. And I just want to say NFTs and metaverse virtual worlds literally changed my life as an artist here in Brazil. So anyone that like don't quite understand it yet or something like this can come up to me and like ask questions or anything. I'll be always supporting the community. And that's
There you
it. I
go.
really appreciate to be here. Thank you, Chrome.
Appreciate you, Ottis. It's awesome. Appreciate the compliment. And yeah, you can follow Ottis on Twitter at Ottis, so OTTIS, and hit him up about all your XR questions, because I'm sure he's got your mind just thinking about all the potential and what we can do in the metaverse here. So yeah, awesome. And we'll be in touch, Ottis. You know, we're plugging away in Storytime DAO. We're happy to have you in there. And, you know, a lot of building and awesome fun in the metaverse and on the blockchain. So with that, I think we'll shut it down. I thank everybody for tuning in. We'll have the podcast live by this evening, and we should have the video up on YouTube in the archives by tomorrow. But yeah, thanks everyone. Until next time, we'll be live on Saturday next week, and we'll catch you in the metaverse. Take